Okay, so this is my part 3 of the Road to 9th Edition Homebrew 9th Edition Codex, so all the adjustments and ability changes, points adjustments and everything like that. So over this section, we will be looking at regiment selection. So this part will only be very brief, as I'm probably going to split that into a separate series, probably something called like playing with keywords, just because that's kind of ballooned into something a little bit larger than it was supposed to be. So instead, I'm just going to cover the 2 smaller points, and then we'll move on to the Astra Militarum orders. So the first point is we're going to re-add some of the lost named regiments that we've had previously. So things like Attila, so that's our Attilan Rough Riders essentially, so there'll be a cavalry-focused regiment. Alesia, so that's our drop troops from the Elysian drop troops. Last Chances, so that's our penal regiment with... I forgot his name, unfortunately. Schaefer, Colonel Schaefer, and Lieutenant Kane. And then re-adding Tanith itself as a named regiment. So I do know that recently we have got Gaunt's Ghosts as a character unit, but we still don't know if they're going to be a named regiment itself that we can choose. So, just to cover that base, we'll be adding them back as a named regiment. And then in addition to that, all named regiments should have at least minimum of 1 unique character, 1 stratagem, 1 relic, 1 warlord trait, and 1 order. This also applies to the Militarum Tempestus regiments, who currently have no unique characters. So they all have their own orders, stratagems, warlord traits, and relics, but none of them have unique characters. So Games Workshop, they can either, say, make a singular Militarum Tempestus character that applies across each regiment. I prefer they not do that, but that seems to be the case with the other armies, with Belisarius, I always pronounce his name wrong, sorry, Cruel, and the new Sisters of Battle Supreme Commander, who's the one of the Lords of Terror. So they could do that, but I prefer they actually make some separate characters. Some better, some things than others, for the Militarum Tempestus as well. As for the other named regiments, we can bring back things like people like El Rahim, so Captain El Rahim as the Talans named character. We can bring back the Death Corps one that they had previously before he was removed and sent to Legends. And then we have, as I said earlier, we have Colonel Schaefer, who's the Last Chances, and keep going like that essentially. So there's plenty of room that we could play with, plenty of characters that have previously had models before and might just need an update, and just some new rules to bring them to 9th edition. So those would all be good and welcome additions to the Imperial Guard, because I believe at the moment we have, 3 Cadian characters, 3 Catachan characters, and then the rest are just like generic, any regiment can take them, like Commissar Yarrick, for example. Moving on to Astra Militarum orders. So basically what we're doing is we're splitting the categories into 2. So there'll be infantry/cavalry orders. So essentially a cavalry officer will issue the same orders as what an infantry officer would issue to infantry. They just do it to their own units. And then there'll be armoured officers. So they essentially were the previous tank orders. And then, but we've changed them to be more generic and can affect any vehicle unit. Voice of Command itself as an ability will be split into 4 subcategories. So there's Regiment Infantry, Regiment Cavalry, Militarum, Auxilia Infantry, and Regiment Vehicle. So basically, a unit with the subcategory Regiment Infantry can then order any regiment infantry, provided they're, of course, the same regiment. Regiment Cavalry, again, would be ordering cavalry. Militarum Auxilia Infantry, that one's something that I've thought could be interesting. So later on in the document, we'll see that I've added a Militarum Auxilia Commander who can issue orders to Ratlings, Ogrins, and Bulgrins. Specifically for the latter 2, I've given them a low intellect rule, so they can only receive orders on a 4+. Ratlings, though, do not have to roll for an order. They're a little bit smarter than Ogrins, of course. They're a bit more cunning. And then there's regiment vehicles. So, of course, say, for example, a tank commander can order other tank units. So for the orders themselves, bring it down, I have made a slight adjustment to that. So I've changed it to until the end of the shooting phase, add 1 to wound rolls for the models in the ordered unit when targeting vehicles or monsters. So make that one a little bit different than take aim, rather than just being the same buff, but just to wounds rather than actual hits. First rank fire, second rank fire, no changes there, fairly self-explanatory. Fixed bayonets, no change there. Forwards for the Emperor, no change. Get back into the fight, no change. Move. I've had to nerf this one, unfortunately, just because at the moment, infantry moving double speed plus double advance is pretty crazy. It means vehicles like transports are completely redundant other than actually just protecting the infantry inside of them. So I've just made that a automatic 6-inch advance added to the movement characteristic. Take aim, no change there. I've also added a couple of additional orders. So the first one is hit the deck. So the ordered unit receives the benefit of light cover until the start of your next command phase. So basically, if you take any kind of regiment traits that aren't wilderness survivors, you can then give that unit light cover, expecting them to be shot in the enemy's next phase. I've also added what's called high impact salvo. So until the end of the shooting phase, you can re-roll the dice when determining the number of attacks the ordered unit can make with weapons that use a randomly determined dice. So basically, it lets things like a heavy weapon squad with mortars allow them to re-roll their shot dice just to make them a bit more reliable. Then there's suppressing fire, which is the ordered unit may make a free round of Overwatch if this unit or any friendly unit within 6 inch is declared as a charge. So this one's a little bit similar to something like For the Greater Good, as in we give a unit an order and then they can then Overwatch for any of their friends within 6 inch of them. So obviously the unit that is charged cannot shoot unless they were the ones who were given the order. But basically, this is just another way to give a faction that has somewhat poor melee capability and lets them try and shoot the enemy before they get to them. Then we move on to armoured orders. So again, as I said, we've made this a little bit more generic. So rather than previously just being tank orders for Leman Russes, we can now issue these to any vehicle. So full throttle, I've just made a simple change there of model to unit. So that means if you say, for example, order a Sentinel squad, it affects all Sentinels rather than just a single vehicle. Gunners kill on sight, I've changed that to add 1 to hit rolls for all the models in the ordered unit. So this is what we're trying to make tank commanders less prominent. So basically they should be there for ordering other vehicles and making them better, rather than just simply taking as many tank commanders as possible. So that makes all your standard Leman Russes into ad hoc tank commanders, essentially. Strike and shout, not much of a change there, so just change from model to unit. So same again, just means a whole unit of Sentinels can then benefit from it. Button up, this is a new one I've made. So the ordered unit treats attacks against them with an AP of -1 as having AP 0 until the end of the game round. So essentially what that does is it's just like the Armageddon Doctrine. So basically if you get hit by a heavy bolter, autocannon, it's treated as having AP 0. So it basically just helps out a vehicle when it comes to chip damage. It will stack with the Armageddon Doctrine. So that means Armageddon vehicles could potentially resist things like crack grenades, battle cannon, not crack grenades, crack missiles, battle cannons, anything with AP -2. So it makes them a bit more durable, makes Armageddon a little bit nicer to take as well. Then I've added target saturation. So until the end of the phase, re-roll wound rolls of 1 for all the models in the ordered unit. So essentially what that means is that one is purely for things like Hellhounds. With their auto hits, there's no point of giving them Gunner's Kill on sight. So this is essentially the order you give them, so you can still get some kind of benefit. Watch their flanks. So this one's like suppressing fire, but for vehicles. So the ordered unit may make a free round of Overwatch if this unit or any friendly unit within 6 inch is declared as a charge. Then lastly, I've added another one called Backpedal. in which the ordered vehicle unit can shoot this phase even if it fell back in the movement phase, which is incredibly vital for us because most of our vehicles have the blast keyword, so they cannot shoot in close combat. So that means you could then reverse and fall back, and then you can order the vehicle and then shoot with it. So that's it for all the actual generic orders. Then we move on to the currently regimental specific orders. So there's Pound Them to Dust. So haven't really changed anything with that Cadian order. I've just made it a generic order. So that means rather than actually working on just Leman Russ tanks, it works on any vehicle with a random amount of shots. Sorry. Burn them out. So no change there. I've just made that one a infantry/cavalry order. So say potentially if Games Workshop re-add things like Rough Riders that could take special weapons while on horseback, so if they have flamers, they could use that order. Fire on My Command for the Valhalla one. Again, I haven't made any changes to the order itself, just so it's available for both infantry or cavalry. Repel the Enemy, Destroyin. No change, again, just cavalry or infantry. Mount Up, Armageddon, no change at all, because cavalry cannot mount vehicles, obviously. Get Around Behind Them, Talan one. Made that one a generic armoured order rather than a tank-specific order. Elimination Protocol Sanctioned, just purely an infantry Militarum Tempestus order. Again, they get no cavalry of any kind, so no change there. Then lastly, there's Form Firing Squad for Mordians. So again, made that an infantry/cavalry order, and I've changed that one slightly. So that one's now been changed to until the end of the phase, the ordered unit can target characters with their ranged weapons, even if they are not the closest unit. So that means instead of rapid fire, they can then be shot by everything in, say, an infantry squad. So if the infantry squad happens to have a plasma gun or a las cannon, that can also shoot that character. So with a BS4, model, it's not going to do that much damage, even with the change. So it's just nice to have. And then that's it for orders. So next we'll be going on to what I've done with regimental doctrines and named doctrines as well. If anyone has any criticisms or anything like that, I'd love to hear them. As I said, I've been working on this document for a while, try and iron out some of the kinks I might have. Again, apologies, I'm just fairly sick at the moment, so I might be a bit crackly. But thanks very much for listening to me ramble about this, and I hope you like it. Thank you.